This is a short video to go over the assessment critique. The quiz that I put online, there were too many kind of systematic issues with it. And so instead of writing the same comments over and over again, I thought that it would be easier for me to just send this video and put it in a format that's easier to look at as well. I think that the quiz, even though it's a good idea from one perspective that it can be automated, it's not great for the person taking it. And I'll have to try to figure out a better way to do this in the future. But for now, we're going to stick with just the paper pencil version. It doesn't take that long, it covers no more than a page really, as long as we keep our answers short and sweet. So I'm just going to go over the answers again. One of the major things was that this was all supposed to be about lesson 2. I think a lot of people for the quiz used the materials I sent out with the video for lesson 3. And I sent out some other materials, and the timing of that wasn't great. And I think a lot of people just were looking at the wrong thing, and I should have been clearer about what you should be using. So I will take the blame for that one. If we're looking at lesson 2, again, we are going through several steps. First, we're going to look at the goals and make sure that what's in the goals was actually in the lesson. Then we're going to look at the assessment. Then we're going to make sure that every item on the assessment is reflecting a goal. Then we're going to look at the goal and make sure that every goal actually is present on the assessment. Then we'll talk briefly about reliability and bias issues. This is more of a preview and a way for me to kind of figure out if you know anything from any other classes about this stuff. And then we'll kind of dial this in as we do a couple more of these going forward. And we'll do like 3 or 4 of these before you actually have to do it on the first exam. So you should be well prepared. As far as our first thing, I look at my first goal compared to my lesson 2. I see that Esteban and Coronado are extra. They shouldn't be in there. They're in lesson 3. And 2 important people from lesson 2, Atahualpa and Pizarro, aren't present. So they're missing. I look at my second goal. They should label things on a map. Tenochtitlan, Hispaniola, Spain, and Mexico City. Spain and Hispaniola are extra. They are not really in the lesson. Hispaniola is in lesson 3. Spain is really more in lesson 1. Cuzco and Lima are also missing, and that's where Pizarro was conquering the Incans. If I look at goal 3, students will list 3 advantages that Spain had over the Aztecs. That's fine. There were 3 mentioned. Goal 4 is that students will be able to define the following terms: conquest, conquistador, ally, and convert. That's fine. There are no extra terms except colonist is missing. So that's my goal critique. Now, once I shift down to looking at the assessment, I am just looking at whether or not the assessment reflects the goals. So even though some of this stuff is bad, shouldn't be in there, we are going to have to kind of go with it because maybe you had a reason for including it. And whatever your objectives are, that's what your assessment should reflect. So if I go line by line, item by item, you can see all the answers over here. Tenochtitlan, right, doesn't really reflect the goal. They were supposed to label it on a map. Yeah, it's in the goals, but this is not really representing it. Cortez is fine. It's the right level of cognition too. It's just a recall goal. Montezuma's fine. Esteban's fine. Again, remember, he was in the goal, so he should be on the assessment. Pizarro is not okay because even though he wasn't in the goal, and he should have been, he wasn't there, so he shouldn't be on the assessment. Just make sure that you remember that going forward. That's a sticking point a lot of times. If it's in the goal, it should be on the assessment. If it's not in the goal, even if it should be, if it's not in the goal, it shouldn't be on the assessment. Going through the next set then, right, item 6 through 10, conquest is a type of ship. Yeah, that's a true or false statement about conquest. Not great. An ally is someone who fights against you. Again, represents a goal. Mexico City is the capital of Peru. Doesn't really represent a goal. Same issue as number 1. Pizarro conquered the Aztecs. Pizarro is fine really because this is about Cortez conquering the Aztecs. So that's really an okay question. So you could say that this shouldn't be on because it's about Pizarro, but you could also say that, well, it's actually about Cortez, so it should be on. The Aztecs had superior weapons. Again, the advantage was that Spain had better weapons, so this also is reflective of a goal and at the right level of cognition. Number Number 11, listing 3 advantages the Aztecs had over the Spanish invaders. Not reflective of a goal, because we were supposed to do it the other way around, Spain's advantages over the Aztecs. So this is not reflective of a goal. And 12 is not reflective of any kind of goal at all. It has nothing to do with anything. It seems like a question that you might see on some kind of quiz. So if I look at my goal critique, I am going to look at goal number 1 and make sure that it is somewhere on this assessment. I see that Cortez, Esteban, Montezuma are on there, but Doña Marina's not really on there, and Montezuma's not really on there. So not great, but mostly there. If I look at goal 2, not represented at all. No map for them to label. Goal number 3, represented in number 10. That's it. So we're missing 2 other things, so not really well represented. And goal number 4 is kind of represented. It's not great. They're not defining the terms. They're telling me what the terms aren't. In each case, things are, false statements. And that doesn't tell me that they know what it is. It just tells me they know what it isn't. So it's kind of represented, but not great. If we go to reliability, we're going to be talking about a couple different things. I put them on a quiz as stability, inter-rater, alternate form, and maybe standard error measurement. But those are the issues that we're going to be looking at regarding reliability. What I want you to look at when you start to learn more about these, because people didn't do that great on this, some people did, but in general, I don't expect you to know much about, but sometimes I'm surprised. So stability, reliability has to do with guessing and factors that influence your score that don't really have anything to do with your ability. So anytime we see a significant guessing factor, like in matching or like in true and false, we say that's a potential reliability issue. Anytime there are poor directions or really open-ended questions, like number 12, we say that that is an inter-rater reliability issue, because how I write directions for an essay prompt, if they're not that clear, the students probably don't know how in-depth I want them to go, how many facts they need to report, whether it needs to be an essay format, or if it just can be bullet pointed, right? So I need to make things a lot clearer in general, and so that's going to be an inter-rater reliability issue. And then the length of an assessment also influences the reliability of that assessment. Because we have pretty poor goal coverage, I skipped that part, we are going to say that, well, that's not great in terms of goal representation, so it's too short, and that will also impact its reliability. The final thing we'll talk about is bias, and the idea that bias in assessment can take 2 forms. One is penalization, and one is offensiveness. When an item like number 12 is on there, what happens if it offends somebody is it makes them lose their concentration, and they're not able to focus, and that causes a reliability and validity issue. So, item number 12 is an offensiveness bias problem. We'll talk about penalization when we talk about bias during our next meeting. That's it. If you have any questions, and again, we'll be doing more of these, let me know. If it's clear, great. Just keep going, and I expect everyone will be on the right page by the time the first test